Hey there. Good afternoon. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing our study in the prophet Daniel. We're here near the end of chapter 7. Let's read the whole thing again to keep it in context, and it's a fun chapter to read and listen to, I think. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And it said thus unto, and they said thus unto it, Arise and devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast also had four heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. A fiery stream issued, and it came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then because of the voice of the great words, which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. Yet I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me to know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, before whom 3 fell, even that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, who looked more stout than his fellow. It's a little better. Whose appearance was greater than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. I don't know, that's interesting. I saw that very clearly now for the first time. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. He's writing about this doubtless in Persia. So, interestingly, I think this is interesting because he's saying the days of Belshazzar happened, but sequentially it was written down after the invasion of the Persians, it seems to me. Though it is still written in Chaldean. I forgot exactly where it returns to Hebrew, if it does. Anyways, okay. Well, because it's still in Babylon when this vision happened. So it's given in the Babylonian tongue. So we were round about verse 22. And honestly, right here, in verse 23, something that, one thing I wanted to look, 23 and 24. Basically, like I said, and there was a good comment from the Analog Kingdom, my buddy Brian. I don't know if that's like bad to mention your first name, whatever. Sorry. But, whatever. That, you could think maybe this little horn is that second beast of Revelation. The second beast, which is often called the false prophet. And it makes sense here with the mouth speaking great things. And it could be that, that is meant to be an expansion on this theme. Now, what's interesting, like I said, the beast is the kingdom, the horns of the king. So it makes me, this makes me question a lot of my outlook on this. And as far as what it's been, as far as this final kingdom. The final kingdom does come up out of the sea, but out of the world. The kingdom itself is an earthly kingdom. That's for sure. But it's being used by Satan, apparently, through this little horn. So there are 10 horns out of this kingdom. There are 10 kings that shall rise, and another shall rise after them. So the 10 kings come first, and they're part of this kingdom. So this kingdom is separate from those other 3 kingdoms. But what if, well, again, like I said, it's like maybe that's because it's like the ferocious beast could be the one world system that's trying to emerge. In that case, NATO would be this beast, which is in line with what most people have been saying for the past couple decades, as far as not NATO, but they were always pointing at the European Union, right? And they are certainly waging war right now against Russia. As certainly flesh is being devoured over there. I have no doubt about that, right? Is that not? If that war accomplishes anything, it will be one thing it's doing is killing people. We have a lot of bloodthirst. You can literally hear the bloodlust in some of these people on the news. It's astonishing they don't understand how they sound to civilized people when they just gleefully talk about killing Russians. Like I have some purpose in mind to see Russians dead. What have Russians done to me? To us? I'm saying, I don't want to get into politics too much. I don't. But this is political. These are beasts. It means kingdoms, politics, nations. So I think this verse is very important because the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms. I would say, is the NATO alliance diverse from all kingdoms? I mean, it's like, I don't know. Also, I was going to say, like, in the sense of devouring the whole earth, I don't know if the beast has to be... The horns can exist before the beast, and it could be as separate kings of separate nations. But together, they make this unity of nations. I mean, there's never really quite been... Like, the earth has been dominated by various empires, right? But no one empire ever... Like, America and Britain, sure, we came close to... We definitely dominated the world, right? Britain dominated the world at one point. Dominated. But didn't precisely own it. I mean, not the way... they have done it much in the way it's been done historically. It's like we had influence worldwide, and we've had influence worldwide, but we don't run the world. We run a lot of aspects of it. Yes, a lot of people run their countries because of the way we want them to, and there's a lot of stuff like that. But, we don't really have... We don't have Nebuchadnezzar like... we almost do. When it comes to other countries, we often treat them like we can do whatever we want. Even though technically we supposedly can't do whatever we want. But, we're just an individual nation. And I think with this thing has 10 horns, the reason it's different is it's not like Rome or the British Empire or the American Empire. It is more like the European Union. But Europe is not really much of an empire itself, honestly. I look at that as, like, honestly, how many horns are you going to give Europe, really? They're not worth 10. They say, 10. That's like, I think that's been done. That's, I don't know. So I've never been a fan of the European Union theory of it, but it's like, I get it. But really... I don't think any of that is truly it. Like I said, the kings and the kingdoms have to coalesce into this beast thing at some point. Maybe that's what we're witnessing, is the coalescing of the beast. It's going to trample 3 kingdoms. Maybe China, Russia, and da-da-da. Or, the Arabs, I'm not a big fan of that theory, but because, here's the thing. I certainly wouldn't say this is it. That's it. It's like, you got to take it with a grain of salt and just, we can only see what happens. And then when the false Christ comes, that's when it's important. Because it's like, we're going to war. The saints are going to war. We're not here for tribulation. The tribulation is not for us. We are going to be troublesome. We are going to trouble the world. That's what's going to happen. That's what we're here for. We're here. We have the gospel armor on to march off to war. And of course, the gospel armor being, of course, spiritual, and the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but mighty through God. We don't wage that kind of war, but it still will get us killed. Not by the plagues of Revelation, but by the beast. And it says it very clearly. He will wear out the saints of the Most High. He will make war against them, overcome them. It means it doesn't mean he's necessarily going to kill us all, but we will be defeated in that the world will not believe us. Just like they didn't believe Jesus. Some people will believe us. Yes, of course, a remnant will believe. That's why when God comes, they're not all wholehearted. I do think there, I think there's some sort of, there's things I don't want to say. Because, like you look at Peter. Right? Jesus said, he that denies me before men will I deny before my Father. Right? The Bible also says no one who gets that mark will have any part in life. They're all going to be slain. They're all, And I would certainly regard it as such, because there are those who deny the Lord who do not get the grace that Peter got. And certainly if you go into it thinking you're going to get grace, if you're like, well, I'll take the mark, but Jesus will forgive me. I don't know about that. There's a reason it's marked out like that. That's why I think Christians don't think they could go through the tribulation, because like if they took the mark, they think they'd lose their salvation, which we think is technically impossible. all that tells me is it's impossible for me to take the mark. I wouldn't take it, you know. I refuse to wear a mask in public, you know. So I think I won't take that mark either. I went and I saw my dad and did things I wasn't supposed to do when I was supposed to be locked down like a good little boy. So I'll probably buy and sell as I please without the mark. I'll find people who will deal with me. Because there will be people, I'm sure, who are willing, you know, because like they'll take the mark, but they'll also double deal. You won't be able to do it maybe at the Walmart, but maybe, you know, at the dumpster. There's all kinds of ways to survive. You know, it's the time. The thing is, it's an exciting moment when we get to fulfill that thing that, you know, many men desire to look into. What is the end? You wouldn't want to live through it. Probably not. No, but it's also got glory. There's glory there. So 10 kings that shall arise, and after it another shall rise. So there's obviously something that second beast rises second in the book of Revelation, and this horn, I think that is a good connection there between the little horn being that individual, you know what I mean, that beast that is represented by a single man, whereas there's another beast that is represented by a monster, and that monster is the thing that man controls, the system that he controls, the governmental, pretty much let's just call it governmental, you know, the kingdom that he controls. And it's because he's going to basically, it looks to me like it's going to be like a world dominion divided up into 10 basic things, 10 basic leaderships. And, you know, it isn't hard to look around the world and figure out, you know, and here's the thing, you don't have to think like, well, you know, what do we do about Africa? You know, you might just point one person over Africa, you know, because the nations there are not very strong. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of, you know, and that's why I was thinking about Europe. I'm like, each of those individual nations, but they've like, I know there's like attempts at Pan-African unions and stuff like that. You know, the Antichrist could make all that stuff happen, or all that stuff might happen leading up to Antichrist. You know, it may be all present because that's what it seems to be. Like I said, I don't know if they have to be necessarily coalesced as the beast, but the 10 kings will rise. We may not recognize them as the 10 kings. But then the little horn comes on the scene, and 3 of them are plucked up by the roots, as it says in the prophetic symbolism, which means not so much that the kingdoms are removed, but the kings, meaning the leaders of those, they get new leaders. 3 new leaders, I think, and 3 subdued kingdoms. The kingdoms are subdued by their leaders being taken out. You know, like we did Gaddafi in Libya. I'm trying to think, you know, and Saddam Hussein in Iraq. But this is over too long a period of time. See, I would think this is a simultaneous beatdown is what I'd be looking for. A simultaneous beatdown of 3 and removal of 3 allied, perhaps, or maybe not allied, maybe separately. And maybe, you know, like when they were talking about the axis of Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, like if all 3 of those nations had been subdued suddenly, Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, all at once, and their leaders deposed, I would think, wow, that reminds me of Daniel 7. So that's what I'm saying. I'm looking for something that's going to come up like that. You can read all you want into all the symbols, but it doesn't mean anything until you see something that actually really fits the triggering events. The triggering events are the key. Understanding the symbols is not particularly important because they'll mostly be, you know, revealed when you see them. Like, and even if it's not clear what it is, it'll be clear that what is going on is it's happening. You know, I mean, the events are happening because the events will closely match. Not just be kind of like 10 years ago, we took out one guy, and then we took out another guy, and now we're going to take out a third guy. Though, I could be wrong on that. Maybe it is spread out. I think it's more of a close in proximity of time so that it would be remarkable. Like that, the bear had 3 ribs in his mouth. I mean, that's interesting, too. It's like, whatever. Are those his own ribs? Is that why he's up on one side? It's kind of weird. Like devouring himself? Because, Ukraine used to be part of Russia? I don't know. Devour much flesh. I don't know. Again, you go to any time in history, you could say, oh, devour much flesh, they're making war, Yeah. Again, so don't take it too... I certainly don't take... I take every moment seriously. I try to feel like I'm seriously preparing for the Lord, for the end times to begin at all times. Because the end times could begin soon. They could. Or they could begin centuries from now. Because I think the onset of the events... I don't think it could be next week necessarily, but we're getting close to situations that would make me start thinking it could, things like the end times could start. But the thing is, the precursors are so, they're not really spelled out very well. The precursors are things like the man of sin and the falling away and the events we want to see. The three kings being subdued. The 10 kings rising, that's way too... For me, that's just like, pick 10 leaders. What? That's not good. When they go to a G10, maybe? The G10, the G7, the G8, the different nations involved in that's an economic thing. But a lot of these structures could align quick, like something that could happen that would make things align very quickly. And in a series of a few years, we could have a situation that looks very much like what we'd be looking for. But again, it has to actually happen. That's what someone asked me. They were talking about the vaccine and the COVID stuff, and like, is this, is this one of the plagues of Revelation? And I'm like, well, could it kill all these people? Like, well, how would you know if it was like the start of something? It's like, well, because other things would follow. We wouldn't go years out of the pandemic and with nothing particularly else happening and call that the beginning of the tribulation. We'd already be, what was it, 2020? We're in 2023. If that was the beginning, we're already almost to the end. It's hardly anything happened. It's definitely not the end times. That's basically how you can tell, because it's 3.5 years, or 7, but it's a finite period of time. That's why at one point I decided, I'm going to start preaching we are not in the end times, because I'm tired of people saying we are. And I believed we were, but I realized of course we're not, because we weren't. We weren't in the end times in the 80s and the 90s. And when I started preaching in the 2000s, I was right. We weren't in the end times. I was right. I've been right every year since I started preaching that. We are not yet in the end times. I'll be right about that in the future. Okay, not that I don't believe they're coming. I do. I just don't know when. I don't, like I said, I do think the pandemic is an interesting, almost like a drill. Almost like a drill. It's a kind because we've been living through such soft times. I certainly don't feel like after seeing that, I'm like, wow, if this was the end times, it would knock me silly. It would knock me silly, man. It'll be vexation to understand even what the heck is going on. Let me tell you that. That's what the prophet Isaiah said. So that's very important. Now, until the ancient days come, judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. That's one of the things that it says judgment is given to us. What kind of judgment? And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. I'm not sure if this fits in, because like I said, it's not quite revealed in here, but it fits very neatly into the millennial point of view. Right? Because after he comes, the one like the Son of Man who receives his kingdom, or the Ancient of Days comes and judgment was given to the saints. I find where I was emphasizing that part about the one like the Son of Man and was giving him dominion and all that stuff. The aspect that I was getting at yesterday, I want to make sure I reiterate, if I didn't make it clear then, is that it's that aspect of the Trinity that says, look, they're distinct from each other. There's something distinct going on here. You can see them both at the same time as distinctive. They appear as two two men you can see. That's a good way. They can take the appearance of, there's the one who appears as the Ancient of Days, whatever that, and we see him describe him as this enthroned figure with white. And Christ is described in just the same way in Revelation in chapter 1, where his hair is white like wool. The hairs of his head are white. And so also the Ancient of Days. And so, but they are distinct from each other. And I think, like Daniel, when he says this, that he's given this dominion and the lie and all this, it's part of the mystery. These verses are given it's the Old Testament understand what this Messiah figure might look like, and here he is given this almost divine, position with the most. He is brought before the Most High, and what I think is happening is in the vision, Daniel sees this character, the one described, one like the Son of Man, and he knows that it is the angel of the Lord. It is, or he has this idea that this figure is also God. But he knows that the one on the throne over there is God too. The one who receives the dominion and all that. Who is he? Whose son is he? That's the question asked. Tell me his name and his son's name. He receives it of the one on the throne. So it's that aspect emphasizing that distinctiveness. But he is still this thing that he receives. Who but himself could receive it? He is one like the Most High, but he is not like, he is one like unto the Son of Man, but he is not. The reason he's like unto the Son of Man is because he is not like unto God. You know what I mean? He's said to be like a man. That's an almost ironic way of saying he looks weirdly not like God. Meaning he looks like God, but he has the appearance of a man. He seems to be God. Now, Daniel's not saying that, but I read that into it. Because, why? If you see one, he sees this one receive this kingdom and the glory and dominion, and all the people are going to serve him. Who serves all people? Who does all people serve except God? There's no man that all people should serve, to whom God would say, I will not give my glory to another. I will not give my praise to graven images. Or to a man, when they asked for a king, he said, it's not me, they've rejected, it's me. The giving of a king was an offense from the beginning to God. And he eventually chose a king after his own heart, David, right? The man he chose. It doesn't mean that David, people think a man after his own heart means like, oh, David, he's a man after my own heart. No, what it means is he is a man after my own choosing. The man my heart chooses. My heart chooses. I feel like I want David to be king, even though David's not a perfect person. He's not a man after my own heart necessarily. Like in the sense we use that term. That's not what it meant. David was the king. But when he gave that earthly dominion to David and that promise, that the sure mercies of David, that he would not take that away, it was because ultimately he would return the kingship to himself, where it belongs, because God was their king. He was always supposed to be their king. They were to have no other. You're not to bow and worship before any man, any king upon the earth, only the Lord God. And that's why Christ is the only true king, and the only one who can do that is someone who is as equally God as God. That's the Trinitarian teaching. And not everyone agrees with it, okay, but it's true. It's biblical, that's for sure. If you follow the Bible, we can start tossing aside biblical things, because if you have to eliminate a bunch of passages, you have to explain them away. Because people usually err on one side or the other. They either say he's one and the same with the Father, and there's no distinctiveness at all, and this is just an illusion. And I know it's in a vision, but why is the vision being given? It's being given to give Daniel this strange vision of God talking with another guy that seems to be godlike, but also manlike. And of course, the guy on the throne is man-like because he's described as being like a man. Why is he one like the Son of Man? Why is he described that way? It's because Jesus came calling himself that. That's why. Because he knew what he was and what he was supposed to be. He received it of his Father. Okay, so, yeah. And so the kingdom's going to be, so the saints of the Most High will eventually take the kingdom. We're going to get killed, but then we're going to rise from the dead. That shows you how invincible we are. You know, and it's like, we are going to lose, but it's just temporary. You know, we're going to rise from the dead, and Jesus is coming, and we're going to probably be right there and see all those people that killed us get killed. If that appeals to you. Or maybe not. You know, I don't know. I don't care to see it, tell you the truth. Maybe I will care to see it. I don't know. Depends on, honestly, the truth is I know. And the reason I want to stay away from it is because I have a vicious, bloody streak somewhere deep inside me, and people don't like this. Whenever I say that, people are like, oh, it's like, if you don't confront the monster within, because I know, and it just comes out like it's like if I saw someone raping one of my kids, okay, I could stomp their skull into the dust, right easily, especially in that moment, right? Most people could. If you couldn't, you'd say, "What's wrong with you?" Well, I'd be kind of like, I don't know what I should do. That's what was that? Was it Walter Mondale or Michael Dukakis or something like that who was running for president? One of them, no, I forget who it was, but one of them was running, and they asked, well, what if your wife was raped? And he was like, well, he equivocated. He didn't like show any manly, it made him seem like, what's wrong with you? Because on some level, if you don't have that rage response, there's something wrong with you. If as a man, you don't have the manly vigor to know, if you don't have the knowledge to know, like, yeah, if I was given over, I love justice enough, if there was such great injustice like that, I would see it as, it would not be hard for me to carry out the reciprocal reward on another who is worthy. It would not be that hard, especially in the moment, especially if I was personally connected. But judgment belongs to the God. Vengeance belongs to, judgment he gives to us also to judge. And that's, I think, in the terms like Moses. When he had men, he sent men to be lesser judges under him. And it's talking about in the millennium. Because it's like the white throne is the white throne. But there is going to be a kingdom of God on earth, and the saints are going to run it. That's what I believe. And I think, and I take that from, I've done a lot of teachings on the millennium. I have a study on the millennium. Listen to my teaching on Isaiah. Well, they're missing episodes of that. I don't know where they went, and I couldn't find my backup. Great. I keep backups, and then at some point, when moving backups around, I lost a bunch of them. I either lost track of them, or they may be indeed lost. So I don't know. I have to download a bunch from online in case I get canceled, because one of my things was I kept those backups in case I ever get canceled. Then I could go somewhere and upload thousands of Bible studies. How long would that take? But anyways, I'll probably just make new ones, and then what I would do is actually make all the old ones available on my website and just live stream new ones. People could download the old ones if they want to watch them. Should probably make. I don't think they'd make good audio. I mean, there's like they'll make mostly good audio, but you're gonna have to sometimes when you're gonna want to. I put visual aids up from time to time. I think I try to describe it too. Don't I usually do that? Yeah. So the 10 horns, the 10 kings that shall rise. All right, we got those. Ancient of Days. Saints possess the kingdom. Judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. It says in one place, we will judge angels. Not sure what that means. Again, judgment is judgment is not all final. Some judgments are just like in the moment. Like, what do we do about this situation? Oh, this is what we should do. A judge is also a decision maker in a government position, at least in the ancient formulation of their understanding. The judges are the people who sit in society over one and decide things that affect everyone. That's why they're important. Not when we think of our judges in the judge system, I don't want to think of that. I want to think of like Bible, Old Testament type judges when it says judgment given unto them. It's not we're going to have a legal system necessarily. I mean, there may be a legal system, but I mean, it's not speaking. Well, it may be speaking in terms of a legal system, but not only in terms of a legal system, but also in terms of a government system, which is part of law and order. That's what I say, law and order, not just law, but also order. So, people often get confused, of course, with the judge not that you be not judged, but of course, someone says, Paul, you shouldn't judge. You know, you're going to be judged with the judgment you judge. I say, yes, and the Lord do so to me and more if I do the same things that I say that one should not do. If I judge someone for doing something, if I say, yeah, you know, walking out on your husband and wife for a rich other person is wrong and sinful, and God, you know, he's either going to chastise you as a Christian or he's going to turn you over to Satan for such a thing. You know, and hey, did I say anything? If I said that, people would think like, Paul, you shouldn't judge people. I'm just declaring God's judgment. I'm not making something up. And even obviously you want to be careful when you're guilty of the same things you accuse other people of, or of similar things, or of in-kind things. You know, I mean, sometimes it's like it says, someone has a beam, a speck in their eye, you have a beam in your eye. Okay, but whatever's affecting you is obviously more impairing your vision, if that's the case. But what I'm saying is those things, they may be of a different nature. You may have a speck of metal, he may have a speck of dirt. And what I mean is, sometimes we can be hypocrites because we don't do the same things the wicked do. We do other wicked things that we justify. You know what I mean? And that's unacceptable. You know what I mean? So we're condemning the wicked. Like I said, while I do not take sins off the book, I'm not going to go up to, I don't know. It's like we need to be blameless. We ought to be. But the truth is, a lot of times what people think of as judgment is just telling the truth. It's just telling the truth. Because like I said, I get confused sometimes because I forget. A lot of times people, they mistake just words and declarations of things as they are to be something that they're not, which is actual damage or action. You know what I mean? When I say someone's doing the wrong thing, they're being bad or whatever, describing their behavior and accurately, I'm judging righteous judgment. I'm not judging after the outward appearance of things necessarily. I'm just actually judging righteous judgment as one should, as we are called to. If I'm doing that, then there should be no question that it's okay if I'm judging righteous judgment. But what is not righteous judgment is when it's not just condemnation could be one, when you say when you cross certain lines, when we cross into certain lines, we start getting into categories of speech that are not constructive, right? And so that could be crossing a line into sinful territory, But like I said, it's the kinds of things we do, not just the same things. Like I said, things that can be similar. Like I said, in the way I look at this is like, look, I use this as an example very often, but like homosexuality is wrong. It's a sin. I don't try to bother people who are into that myself. I will continue to preach the truth about it always. And if they choose to listen to me, then they will hear that. Because that's what I always say. It's wrong. And I've explained why it's wrong. You don't even need the Bible or religion at all to understand that it's just wrong. It's the wrong way. That's not how it's done. And it starts there. It's incorrect at the base. At the base of it, it's incorrect. It's like, you can't take that away. It's like, no, that's not right. I was like, well, it's like, but can I do it anyways? There's a lot of things we can do. It's not, you shouldn't put sharp objects in your ear, but people do it, right? It's okay. So yeah, I'm not here to police everyone. And nor would I seek to persecute them. That would be wrong. It would be wrong to persecute gays. You say, well, it's an abomination. So is a lying tongue. And until you've cleansed yourself from all lies and other things that God finds abhorrent, you should probably be tolerant of other sinners who are not harming people. If people are harming people, the state has to put them away or do whatever the law says is necessary, or until we provide more just laws, at least as far as can be done. we can't allow people to run them. There's a certain point where compassion and forgiveness and mercy, it's about having mercy on the victim and not allowing them to be persecuted by criminals and evildoers. So we have to take away mercy from them and put them away sometimes in order for other people to be safe. Other times, people's sins are sort of like victimless. Two consensual adults doing something that God says an abomination. Well, it's not something that I see I need to persecute any more than the guy next door lying to his wife about whatever he was up to the other night out at the bar. I'm not like, as far as like, I don't jump into other people's business. I mean, if I was intimately involved, but I don't go prying in other men's affairs. That's judgment. As far as what it's going to look like then, though, I don't know. Are we going to have a fascist Christian state? I don't know. I tend to think that the kingdom of God is going to be based on love and understanding and doing right because you like to do right. So this other kingdom, he speaks great words against the Most High and wear out the saints of the Most High. Think to change times and laws. Interesting with the times. What is it when we change times? Well, there's the fashion of the time, right? We're living in a particular time. And often we'll say, well, we use that word time like that, right? We use the word time, we'll say, well, this time we're going to do it differently. What did you do that time? Time is not only this measurement, but it also refers to a specific moment. These are the times we live in. So he's seeking to change them, to change times. I don't think to change time like daylight savings time or something like that, to change the way we measure time like that. I don't think that means that at all. I don't, like I said, if he was someone were to introduce, we got a new system of clocks. Instead of base 60, we're going to go base 80. 80 minutes in an hour, 80 seconds in a minute, 80 minutes in an hour, 80 hours in a day. It'll be simpler. Whatever. And a new measurement. I don't think that's it. I think he's going to try to change the time that we're living in to a different time. Obviously. To me, changing times is like the Cultural Revolution in China. When Mao tried to destroy the past and rebuild it from scratch. It's like we don't live in that anymore. We're not in those times. We're going to change time. We're going to change everything in a very short amount of time. We're going to change. So we're not, remember when, I was living in the 80s and now we're living in the 2020s. And that's the natural passage of time, right? But when the pandemic struck, it was kind of like they changed times on us. It's time for pandemic. And so they changed the time to a time of peace to a time of panic. See, they changed times. And laws. This, again, the way things are done. There's currently, people are always trying to change the laws, right? But he in particular will think to change time, at least think, probably in a way more so even than now. But that is what we're looking at right now. And not just in the sense of changing laws, like in the sense of on the books, meaning, changing things very fundamentally. Very fundamentally. I've been noting all these changes that have happened. They've been in place for a long time, but it's been long in my realization. I said changes from Christian ethics. Like I said, judgment begins at the house of God. We don't believe that anymore because people in power receive lesser sentences than people who are common. The common people are punished more harshly for the same crimes than rich or powerful people are. So we don't believe judgment begins at the house of God. Judgment begins with the guy on the street who can't feed himself. You are the first guilty person. You are the first person to be punished. You will receive the most punishment and the least mercy from society if you're in that position. If you do anything, get out of line. Though not entirely so, right? Meaning, if you're dregs enough, actually now they want to celebrate you, especially if you have the right skin tone. You're probably not going to, you can commit a lot of crimes and you're not going to, because I think what has happened is the elite, as sort of a way of trying to appease the common people, have said, well, we're going to give a special dispensation to poor black people. You can do whatever you want. Crimes, you can rip up, at least for now, this is the experiment they're running, is they're letting them off with lighter sentences than they used to, and no cash bail and stuff. But if you're white, you can expect to have the book thrown at you, especially if you're poor. And what they're doing is they're sort of saying blacks are kind of like an elite class, like us, like the elites. They don't have to be punished, and neither do black people. We'll just we can get enough. If we're hungry for punishing people, we'll find enough white people to punish. That's how I feel the society has become. I'm not racist. My society is. My society is racist against me, apparently. Our elite whites have declared white people, especially common white people, poor white people, to be the lower people. They have less rights. Now, this hasn't been codified into law, but it's the prevailing attitude among the elites in government and the elites in the judiciary, obviously, because they keep letting off these rich people and powerful people with slaps on the wrist. I say, even if you're a poor black, you're not going to get treated like Hunter Biden. I'm sorry. You're not going to get that kind of, reparation. Because I think that's because they don't want to punish them for doing anything. It's the ultimate condescension. It's a horror thing they're inflicting on the black community, or on black areas, I should say. There's no such thing as a black community. That's just the black community. It's like on black communities. There are black communities. There's that. And there are black neighborhoods and black areas. And by reducing police resources, I don't really think they're helping those areas. I don't think so. People in those areas will get fed up with it, I'm sure. But in the meantime, what I'm saying, though, is true as far as, like, elites get off. Elites, for the most part, get off. I know there's, like, this movement of where they're starting to let criminals off with slaps on the wrist, like low-class criminals, but mostly in districts where those criminals are other races, just quite frankly. I mean, I'm not the one doing that. Paul, you're saying that. It's like that's what's going on. I mean, this is what it is. Because we feel guilty, apparently, and we want to give. So not we, the elites feel guilty. I don't feel guilty. I understand why the elites feel guilty. They're the same people that enslave those people. They're the same people, letting slavery go on in Africa right now. And organ harvesting in Haiti and all kinds of wonderful horrors right at our back door. They don't care. So, he shall speak great words against the Most High. It was given him a mouth speaking great things. It was given him to make war with the saints. This is all going to be, a lot of this war he wages against us is going to be propaganda. Because he's not going to want to kill us right off the bat or show that he can't. You know what I mean? Because if he tried too soon, it would not work. He can't kill the saints. Or maybe he can kill the saints off one by one until it's the final ones. Maybe it is like a series of murders. I don't know. Maybe he can kill us as soon as he finds us. That's all right. That might not be so bad. It's not until the final two are killed. At least we know that. The final two saints of the Most High, the witnesses, the two candlesticks, not stars, candlesticks. That's beast, not horns. You know what I mean? Candlesticks, not stars. Candlesticks are churches. Stars are angels. And we're not looking for angels in the end time. We need churches. And that means, to me, groups of people. Saints, the saints of the Most High. Not the stars. We don't need superstars. All those superstars are going to fail us. You watch. If any of them don't, that'll be an astonishment. As I said, I thought, if I was going to pick one of the two witnesses, I'd make it like Pat Robertson or somebody evil like that. Just kidding. I'm sort of kidding. I don't want to. I don't want to. That was a joke. I shouldn't jest about someone's nature like that, as if I was judging them to hell, because I don't know if he's such a bad fellow. Sometimes he, whatever. I used to think very harshly about a lot of preachers, and I still do, but not very specifically. So I don't like to talk about it because I don't have a lot of information. Like unless it's Arnold Murray, who I was very familiar with, but he's passed on now, so who really cares? He's not really an effective force out there. He become like J. Vernon McGee. You know, still play his studies, but, you know, it's not particularly important. I think it was J. Vernon McGee. He used to do the Through the Bible radio show. They'll be given to his hands till a time and times and dividing of times. That's the 3.5 years I talk about. Now, it says there are 2 3.5 year periods, and it's confusing sometimes whether it's a, you know, I've seen people say, and hopefully maybe we'll go through this time and it'll click for me. Because, you know, I don't like to pretend to be dense. I don't pretend, but it's like, and I don't pretend to be dense. I'm genuinely dense. No, it's just, it's no secret these things are not easy for people to understand. Otherwise, we'd all walk around with perfect understanding of them. And it's clear to me that people have been misunderstanding them for a long time. I mean, there have been all kinds of misunderstandings out there. And so, you know, it's all right. And we just don't want to make our own into a sort of dogma. That's the main thing. You know, I've met people like that for whom their interpretations of prophecy were pretty much dogmatic. And they go around wannabe prophets and they have these dogmatic prophetic interpretations. You know, I'm like, well, it's going to be very easy to prove you're not a prophet. Yeah, say you take things, when you make it clear that you're doing it by permission. You know, like I say when I'm saying this is speculation. I think it is anyways. I mean, if I had a sure word from the Lord, I'd say so. I would. Even though that would seem, I don't know that would do any good. You know what? I need science. If God wants people to believe in me, he's going to have to give me science to show that you should believe this guy's words. He's right. Because I don't know that I'm right, that's for sure. I don't even have a specific thing to be right about, except about the core of the gospel, which everyone knows. Well, which not everyone, of course, but I mean that in the figurative sense. Everyone knows the gospel. Every good Christian has the gospel pretty straight. Hopefully, it's not hard. The judgment shall sit. Ultimately, the judgment is coming, and they shall take away his dominion. That's it. You know, how you live in this world we will give an account. Men will give an account for the things done in the flesh. The dominion of Satan, the dominion of the Antichrist, of the little horn, however you want to characterize it. I say Satan all the time because ultimately, as Satan entered into Judas Iscariot, whatever form the Antichrist takes, he will be profoundly influenced by Satan. Because as the book of Revelation declares, during this time, well, and I do think it is only during that time that Satan is cast out in a special way in the future. And it will be said, and it is said in the vision of this event, you know, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, for he knows he has but a short time. The devil is walking to and fro on the earth, seeking whom he may devour. But he is doing that, and has been doing that for all of history in the way that we see. Meaning Satan is in the world right now. We know he's in the world. He's not bound in the bottomless pit. Neither is he confined, let's say, to heaven. But he is present in heaven, as it is shown in Job, which I think is a true report. Even if it is a work of fiction, it is a truth that Satan can appear before God. He has not been cast, well, I don't think he's been cast out, because when he is cast out, it is a very noteworthy moment. And if he had been bound in the time of Christ, then history would have looked different. You know what I mean? Like, you're saying Satan's been gone all this time? No, he's here. But he will be here and present in a much greater way when this little horn appears. His power is going to be unleashed in a much greater way. He's going to be given much more significant sway when he is cast out of heaven. This is what I believe. And of course, he's going to come and inspire this great either inspire it or himself inhabit it by appearing as a man. Not merely, as it says, disguised as an angel of light, as in, in a sort of, it says Satan himself is disguised as an angel of light, is transformed is what it says. If he can transform himself, disguise himself as an angel of light, why not as a man? And is not an angel of light also the form of a man? They always are. The form of two young men. And they were angels. To consume and destroy it unto the end. We already saw. He saw it till the end, till the beast was destroyed. But it is not, and the kingdom and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. The people of the saints of the Most High. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't say the Jews or Israel. It's the people of the saints. You know why that is? And I think, like I said, Daniel is a prophet indeed. He saw things. He saw into the beginnings and he saw visions of what we come to know as the Trinity. And he also saw this, the people of the saints of the Most High, which speaks to me that like the saints of the Most High are a people unto themselves. It says in the New Testament, it says, of the two, he has made one new man, one new nation of Israel, of the Gentiles brought together in one. Just as he spoke of bringing together Judah and Israel and making them one new stick, I believe that was from Ezekiel, right? The two sticks rejoining them together into one, which is the way I regard Judah to this day. I regard the Jews as actually that one stick. It is Israel and Judah. They call the nation Israel, do they not? Is it not called Israel? Do they not call themselves Israelites? You say, but there's no tribes of Manasseh. Is there no tribes of Manasseh? Is there no tribes of Dan? Or of Issachar, Zebulun? They're not there. There's none of that. I don't know much about the Jews to tell you that, actually. I haven't researched that, I confess. But I know from the New Testament we had of the tribe of Asher. And what was the other one? And then there was in the Old Testament, when they were returning from captivity, there were people of other tribes mentioned in one of the returning groups. So, and that's not by all means all of the returning groups. They had people of other tribes too. It was not just the tribe of Judah. Yeah, if you look at Ezra, Nehemiah, you'll find people of other tribes. It's not just the Jews. And there was other people who weren't Jews too, right? The Nethinims and all that. I know. Where did the 12 patriarchs get their wives? Yeah, right? Yeah. The idea that there's sort of some sort of pure anything is a little bit of a misunderstanding. Because it has to do with being part of Israel. They are not all of Israel who are of Israel. But the children of promise are counted for the seed. We are also the children of the promise. Thus we are joined together with them through Christ. He having slain the enmity, the hostility between Jew and Gentile, which exists not only in the world, but also in the Bible. That would by choosing one nation, it set them against all other nations. Because he was setting them against them because he said they're worshiping gods that are not. The whole world is corrupted. But the people of the saints of the Most High are people unto themselves. It is Jew and Gentile together in one. He doesn't know that fully, but he understands that it's like, this is what he's being told. It will be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. The God has saints, holy ones. That's what saints are. It means one who is holy. Holy ones, and those holy ones are the ones who will receive the kingdom. To become one of his saints, that's in the New Testament. We're called the saints. Paul to the saints abroad. Paul to the saints which are at Ephesus. To the saints, to the saints, to the saints. He meant all of us. We are all saints. It's gone out of fashion to call us saints. Now we only call people of the past saints who we laud as lions of the faith. But, a lot of the problem is that what used to be something that was supposed to be encouraging to believers becomes something that becomes discouraging because you start thinking like, I can never be like those giants. I can never be like the apostles. They start setting up all these hierarchies over you. They set up priests and cardinals and bishops and all these people over you, telling you, ordering you, controlling the faith, telling you, oh, this and that. And then a lot of it has nothing to do with the faith. But in the original, it was fishermen and common people from different walks of life that he chose as his apostles, as his grand sent company of prophets and prognosticators. Not really prognosticators. But I mean, when he got the people together that he was going to use, he used regular people. He didn't use people with tall, pointy hats. He didn't choose a single priest. He did choose Matthew, whose name was Levi, who may have been from the tribe of Levi, but he was a tax collector. He turned his education to something a little less noble than the priesthood. He might have been in the tribe of Levi. There's his priest, He chose the failed priest. Not that he was. The one who went to college to become a priest, but wound up becoming an accountant instead, Right? Accountant for the government. Tax collector, not a beloved position. I had a friend whose dad was a tax collector. Well, he worked for the IRS, but he always told me, don't tell anyone. It was funny. That's what is. What's funny? I never told my dad that kid's dad was a tax collector. I'm glad he trusted me with that. I was always faithful to that. I realized why. I'm like, oh yeah, my dad would hate your dad. You work for them? I think but it not as like, there's different things you can do over there. Shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. It's an everlasting kingdom. You like, this is the thing. God has a kingdom, a dominion. He's king over. He is the king. It's always been that way. God is king. You notice that? It's the Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Well, it's going to be, his kingdom is given to them, right? We will sit down with him in his throne, revealed here in Daniel, right? He's going to have a kingdom. What kind of kingdom? It's going to be a kingdom in which righteousness dwells. There's no unholiness. When you go there, you better have on a wedding garment. Don't show up like some slob, which means know a bit about where you're going, or you don't have to be an expert on Christianity. By the way, live a Christian life that would fit. You're living your righteous life. You're raising your family. You're doing the right things. You're not seeing prostitutes or entangling yourself with online porn or whatever. You're doing all the right things. Basically, right? You're headed for the kingdom. You're on your way. You're already geared up. And that's the point. That's what that is. The righteousness of saints is described as these white garments. That's why Jesus said they came in there having no wedding garment. They didn't have any of the attire of a saint. That is true, though. You can't just look at any slob can become an apostle. Jesus proved that. But you can't be in any slob. You can't stay a slob forever and be an apostle. Peter's days of bumbling around, asking stupid questions ended. And he grew up into something a lot more Christ-like. And that's the image we look at and say, how can we attain to such things? The same way he did through the power of the Holy Spirit. The same way he did through the power of the Word of God. It's not so hard. In fact, it's very easy. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. What is hard is the sins and the consequences and all that. Yes, that is hard. And chastisement is hard. All those things are hard. But the burden of Christ to do right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly is not such a heavy duty burden. It's just like slipping into a nice piece of clothing, so when you go to the wedding, you look like you came to the event you thought you were going to. You didn't show up like you looked like you thought you were going to a water park. With flip-flops and Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt. You're at a fancy wedding, a really fancy wedding, like of a king. So there's an appropriate garment for that. And it's the righteousness of saints. We are saints, like it or not. We are holy ones. We are marked for holiness. We are sealed for holiness. That is what we are brought. That is where we are headed to, as we're supposed to be going to. Let no one deceive you or seduce you from your true path. Start saying, you don't need that. What else do you think he wants from you? The behavior is everything. Your faith is what makes you behave that way. That's why you've given faith. So, because if you didn't believe it, would you ever do all these things? Maybe some men would. Like some men, perhaps. But how far? I mean, how far, really? That's where it always goes. Those men, those moral atheists, they're only so moral. Sam Harris proved that. He got knocked off his high horse, thinking that and I'm over my time. I don't want to go into it. That famous atheist who wrote "Letter to a Christian Nation" and his high moral standards. But when it came time to taking out the last president, he was willing to compromise. Shows you that's what happens when you don't think God is watching. Here's the thing, because at least I know it's wrong. At least I know. If I do what I do wrong, I'm just as capable of immoral behavior as any atheist. And just as capable of moral behavior. But you lose your frame. It's easy to get lost if you don't have the proper framework. And the problem with a lot of these atheists is they forget they started with a Christian framework. And the problem I'm seeing in the society around me is it's all being torn down. It's like, he that is without sin, go to hell. And he that is, most zealous for whatever, for sodomy, throw the first stone, Throw the first stone. Cast the first stone, because we do not forgive people for sinning the sins against the woke, sins against the unenlightened views of our elite masters. That's what I call them. They're not woke. They're unenlightened views of the elite. It's an unenlightenment. I don't see anything enlightened in it at all. It has nothing to do with the historical enlightenment, which the term woke implies. It has something. The term woke goes back to like the black community as far as being aware of the injustice they were still suffering under. I don't know. I'm not aware of it. So, it's not something it was something I'd have to be woke to. And, I'm certainly willing to hear about it. And they should have more resources for whatever they think they need. It's whatever. I don't have a problem with that. That's something different. This stuff is just, it's putting oppression onto everybody. And thereby oppressing everybody who is just regular. Because we all have to bend to the most absurd things. Anyways, whatever. Okay, thanks for joining me. I look forward to being back here next time. Now I have a tagline. Remember, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. I don't know. I like that. That's going to be, I might say that every time now. I don't know.